Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I find him very comforting.
Yes, I'm going to put him in my repertoire. Seriously, I am.
Oh, good.
Anything I see I like, I bring it in. Because it all helps me.
Chaplain James, what have you learned from the Cryon channeling?
It's soothing. It's similar to it's similar to the transcendental meditation that the lady was that had here, because I've been checking that out too. But I find that most of the people in transitional and transcendental, they don't even really know the difference, or they're not well informed enough to tell me the difference, and they keep confusing each other. But I'm getting to the corner. I like anything that's not just peacefully done. It has to be actively initiated, if you can understand that.
Chaplain James, you triggered me to think of a joke based on what you said, and you want to hear it?
Yes, let's hear it.
Okay, my teeth are holy, they're transcendental.
It sounds like a damn joke.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, it's 11:35, you guys. So let me share the screen, and then I'll introduce Chris, and then Chris, you take it from there. Hello, and welcome to a very special Saturday spirituality group with our guest, Chris Palmore. Chris Palmore is the Gratitude Junkie. He's the best-selling author of the Little Book of Grief, Grace, and Gratitude, which I read, and I hope all of you get a copy. It's on sale for $2.99. And The Mechanics of Gratitude, which has been translated into multiple languages. He's a gratitude conductor and coach. He has created the anthologies Dear 2020, Letters to a Year That Changed Everything, and Dear Gratitude, an anthology. He has founded Gratitude Space and is a host on GratitudeSpace Radio. He also publishes the journal Gratitude Journey. Welcome, Chris Palmore. Please take it from here.
Hi, Dan. Happy to be on. Thanks for inviting me. So nice to have so many people here. I'm hoping we can have a nice discussion, share some stories, and hopefully open up some new ideas to each other. So thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Chris. Now, usually this is the typical, the format can change in any which way, but usually typically the format is our guest speaker gets up to like a half hour to say whatever they want, and then it's followed by Q&A and conversation. But how would you like to do it?
Well, because I think it'd be more interesting for me and you to have a dialogue for that half hour, I guess.
Just me and you?
Well, I mean, you can invite other people in. I don't have like a spiel to go on for 30 minutes. I do conversational stuff. I wasn't gonna, again, I assumed that we were doing like an interview structure here. I think it's more engaging for people listening too than for me just to carry on for a half hour. That's my opinion.
Well, most of us don't know who you are, so tell us who you are.
Okay, my name is Chris Palmore. I go by the Gratitude Junkie. Basically my passion is to create space for gratitude to live and breathe in the world. And I do that in a lot of ways, and I've been doing it for over a decade. So, the reason that, for example, the reason Dan even knows who I am is because of a guy named Gino Hugh that's, I don't know how he knows Gino, but I know Gino because I did a podcast series with a friend of his named Peter out of Hong Kong. So we did a whole series of podcasts where we were doing productive accidents and gratitude. And he brought Gino on, and that was that little thread that allowed this moment to occur. Is everything okay, Dan? I'm kind of reading your face.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm a sensitive, an empathic, sensitive guy. So I'm like absorbing all the energies in the room, and I'm like trying to coalesce them, adapt them free them and make peace with all of them. So that's what's going on inside me, inside this body, Chris.
Okay. So we're here to, I guess, talk about gratitude. This is years ago. I remember hearing, thinking, no one does gratitude meetings. And I did hear that AA had one. And I remember actually, I heard my friend said, well, the local AA does a weekly gratitude meeting. And I was like, well, that's amazing. So it basically, the only people doing gratitude meetings are people that are recovering from alcoholism. So, well, at the time. So I remember going and it just, to be able to sit in a room where people were sharing raw gratitude, they weren't no surface level stuff, just the real stuff, is incredibly powerful. And if you've had a chance to be in rooms like that, it will open up a whole new perspective or open up different thoughts in your mind about things you can be grateful for, or things that you're possibly not finding gratitude in that are in your everyday. So so I'm happy we could get together today, and I'm hoping that we can share a few things gratitude related. So for example, I try to share things that are really personal when it comes to gratitude. Gratitude is all found in our memories, and if you're not present for the moment, you will not have that memory to be grateful for. So part of being grateful is being present. And when you're sharing gratitude later, it's those memories, right? It's not, gratitude is more powerful when it's a memory and not like you're listing a checklist going to the grocery store. So it is a nice step to write down what you're grateful for, but if you're going to do that, try to make it personal and not surface level, because that's the stuff that actually sticks.
I have an idea, Chris. It's a very simple idea based on what you just said. We have 15 people here, Chris. It's tremendous. Why don't we go around and ask people personally, like what they're personally grateful for? Does that sound like a good thing to do?
Yes, and I'd like to go a little bit because we're being so personal about it. The prompt would be a simple way to do this would be share one thing in the last day that made you smile. Because things that make you smile are completely tied to gratitude. These things are mechanisms. If you're finding joy in a situation or even laughter, these are all things to be grateful for. So let's throw that out. Can somebody share short anything, something that made you smile, something or someone, right? It doesn't have to be an object. It can be a person, or it can be an object, or it could be something you walk by. It doesn't even have to be about you. You could be thinking about, we'll go one more step further, and then I'll be quiet because I like to ramble on. You go one more step further and you could say, I saw somebody walking with their dog and they were smiling at their dog, and I'm grateful for that. That made me smile. Do you understand? These are things, they don't have to be about you. You can just be walking by, and it's called vicarious gratitude. You could just pick up on things that have nothing to do with you, and these are moments that can bring you joy. And that's very simply going, something that made you smile or laugh in the last 24 hours. So I will go, but I'm not going to start. Who would like to start?
Okay, Chris. Okay, hold on just a second. Chris, Chris co-host Chris, I'm going to take a step back. Can you take a step up, please?
Sure. Well, Tiffany has her hand raised, so I'm guessing Tiffany wants to start.
Yes. However, I'm going to sidestep just a little bit because I don't remember. Sometimes my short-term memory is not that great, but I do remember the last 2 weeks, right? Good. And I saw two things that were so good. One of them is we were out walking, and we have squirrels in the neighborhood, but we rarely see the baby squirrels, right? So on this day, a baby squirrel was almost getting hit by a car, right? But a crow came down and was trying to like nudge the baby squirrel out of the street. First, I was like, is it hunt? And so we stayed around. I was like, no, if that crow was hunting the baby squirrel, it's still like visible. Like it could get him if he wanted to get it, right? But it was like, no, the crow was getting the baby squirrel out of the street to try to push him out of the street to get him away from the car. And that was so amazing because like the squirrel, because first of all, I don't think crows eat squirrels, but either way it goes, to watch that crow try to save that little baby squirrel was like, and the baby squirrel was saved, you know. And then I was at the bike clinic. We have a bike clinic at the library because I needed some guidance on something to do with my bike. And none of us there like know the guy, but somebody from the bike clinic drove off and then came back and brought him back a coffee. And that was really nice to be in that environment, to watch them bring him a coffee. And he was very happy to get the coffee. He loves coffee. So those are two things over this past 2 weeks that I saw that have really stuck with me. I don't remember yesterday yet. I'll probably remember it tomorrow. So yeah, there we go.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Tiffany. Yeah, that's I said the 2 days because most people don't remember the things 2 weeks out. So you're like the reverse of the normal, which is good. You've got a great long-term memory. So that was fantastic. I really appreciate you describing that, especially describing the squirrel. I'm going to remember that. You completely drew a picture in my head of that's gratitude. Seeing animals care for other animals is very cool. I remember, and I'm just side noting here, on Instagram about a monkey, like the little baby monkey, like fell over or something. It was crying, and the mother monkey came over and just kind of stayed with it for a moment, and then they laid together, and it was just so beautiful. And obviously, the title of the video was like, "They're like us," but you get to watch. Anyway. So animals are so great. They're so easy to find these joyous moments of beauty and compassion. It's so thank you for sharing that with me. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That was a great story. I love, just as you were just saying, I love watching anything with nature and animals helping each other. And we're so disconnected from nature, from our, in many ways these days, that to have anything like that can be so magical. Harvey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, well, I'm really thankful for the new woman in my life. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. Maggie is now in my life. I've been without a woman since last December, when my last one passed away. And I'm just having a great time with her. And today's her birthday. Actually, tomorrow is her birthday, but I'm taking her out tonight for dinner because she wanted a Saturday night dinner instead of a Sunday night dinner. So we're going out for dinner. And I just wanted to say that for me, I developed many years ago an acronym called AGREE, AGREE. Well, guess what the G stands for? Gratitude, practicing gratitude. So it's awareness, gratitude, receptivity, enthusiasm, and enjoyment. And practicing those 5 things can really get you into the flow of life, at least for me.
Oh, it's
so
true.
And the last thing I wanted to say is that, you asked me what I'm grateful for. My answer really is everything, life, and everything that comes with it, including what I consider sometimes the bad things. So that eliminates all the R's that you can think of that are so prevalent in our lives: regrets, resentments. What's the other one? The other R that I was just thinking about. Didn't come to me, but anyway, yeah, all of those are eliminated with gratitude.
That's so true. It's so true. Gratitude is one of those things that the more you have gratitude for things, the more the universe gives you things to be grateful for. That's a mindset that builds on itself. Anyway, thank you for that, Harvey. And is there someone else who wants to jump in with something they're grateful for? Jonathan.
Hey, my name's Jonathan. I'm in the greater Boston area, but anyway, yeah, gratitudes are good. They're most appropriate language. Like, there's nothing more appropriate than saying what you're grateful for. And, I think that, ideally we see more of that in peer support too, in terms of having like real black coffee and outdoor smoking and talking about what we're grateful for. That would really help even more.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Kira, you have your hand raised.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I struggle with gratitude. I hope there'll be more room to, ask you some questions later. But what made me smile, an animal. This morning, my dog, I was eating carrots, and he wanted one so desperately that in a matter of a few seconds, he did every trick he could do. Like really quickly. It just made me laugh because he just wanted that carrot. I don't know. It was just very funny in the moment. It just made me laugh. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a moment of joy. It's beautiful, Kara. That's something to be grateful for, 100%. Yeah. I mean, you were witnessing something that made you smile and some affection and some joy there. And that's exactly why I was asking what made you smile, because a lot of people overthink what gratitude is. And that's a moment you just shared with something you're grateful for because it brought you joy. Right. And now you're sharing with us. And I love it. It's beautiful because we get a receptibility going back and forth when we openly share with each other. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, spontaneous smiles. I mean, just this morning I was on my walk and I'm walking through a local ravine, and kind of not really paying much attention, trying to, my head's kind of lost a little bit. And suddenly a bright red cardinal just went blasting out right in front of me, and sort of broke my, and I just brought a smile to my face. It was such a sort of sudden, unexpected, thing, and it was such a, beautiful creature, this bright red burst, going across, just to follow up on simple thing that brought me a smile. Virginia. Oh, you're unmuted, Virginia.
All right. Can you at least hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think you can hear me. I don't know that you can see me, and I don't know why, but anyway, at least you can hear me. Yesterday, I wrote to my daughter and said, I need an idea for my grandson's birthday. I had an idea, but I hadn't executed it yet. And she said, well, he loves videos. I'm in my early 70s. I'm really not into making videos of myself, unlike most young people. But I thought, okay, all right, I'm going to try to do this. And what freed me up was I found a prop. I found a scarf that I put on my head, and I impersonated a storybook character called Stregonona, written by Tommy DePaola, and she's this witch in Italy who makes pasta. And it's a wonderful series of stories, very magical. And so I made a video of myself because I call myself Nana to my grandchildren, Stregonana, with the scarf on. And I talked about how I love to make pasta, and I make the best pasta, and I know it's the only thing my grandson likes to eat. So I said, and we're going to just eat pasta for the rest of our lives whenever we're together. It was just a happy moment. I would never have done that if my daughter had not prompted me. And my first reaction was, oh no, I'm just going to say happy birthday. It was really a revelation. It ended up being the high point of my day. I still kind of can't get over it. So there's a good example, I think, about something to just pop into your life. You feel nervous. You feel, I can't do this. You do it, and it makes you deeply grateful. So that's the story I wanted to tell.
That was beautiful, Virginia. Thank you so much. I love the whole thing, and I love here. There's a witch. That story of a witch that makes pasta. Oh, the whole thing was so great. Thank you. That's so much fun. I mean, you just created a memory that you and him are never going to forget. I just know it.
That's true. He's going to have that video, and so everyone knows, Stregonona was written by Tommy DePaola, who was a very loved and respected children's book author and artist. So if you have any little kids around, just so you know about him.
Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Virginia.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any? Oh, there's Billy.
Hey, Billy.
I'm going to try to share real quick. I have a adult disabled daughter in the background. So if you hear any background noise, that's what it is. She's very vocal, nonverbal. I love that share that Virginia, that was you were just sharing, because that was my gratitude. I finished a book last night. I don't know if anybody reads anything by Friedman Bachman. He's one of my favorite European authors. And he wrote a book called My Friends. And it's about the story of four teenagers that are misfits and growing up in rough times. And it was such an amazing, incredible book and so well written, because he takes all of this pain and suffering and wraps it up in just such beautiful, magical storytelling. And the gifts that you get and the love and the beauty within that book was just incredible. He's a magician. But the initial on top of that is it reminded me of my three best friends, because it's a story about three boys and a girl that were best friends in this one summer together. And it brought so many memories back to my three best friends when I was in middle and high school. And they were boys, and I was like a tomboy in the mix. And I did end up marrying one of the boys, and we've been together for 40 years. But it just brought back so many memories, and I have lost one of those friends since. And there's a lot of loss in this book, and it was just such a beautiful gift to hear that story and to just bring back those memories, because I feel like there's sometimes things happen in our lives that just bubble up memories that are way buried deep in our memory banks, and they come to the surface. And it's moments like that, I think, that are just beautiful, and that's gratitude. Thanks for letting me share.
Love it. Thank you, Billy. I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for sharing. That was so beautiful. Books bringing back memories.
Yeah, it seems we can be triggered all kinds of things, little things here and there that you don't expect it to, and it triggers a memory and it goes down. And I could hear the emotion in your voice as you were talking about the loss as well, and finding gratitude within the loss, is another thing. And I was going to ask Chris if what I go into periods. I can easily have periods where I'm very grateful for stuff. I'm in that mindset, and I can also go into periods where I'm not, and what can you speak to about getting out of going from a state of feeling non-gratitude to grateful for things? Is there, do you speak about that kind of stuff in your writing?
Yes, I do. There's a lot of ways to kind of put a head on that. So, for example, I try to want people to understand that, being grateful is a habit. It's something you have to work on. It doesn't just show up and stay with you. And it's not woohoo as much as some people like to. I don't believe it's woohoo. Okay. I think it's a practice. Just like, if you were trying to get a bicep, you would have to go to the gym and lift the weights. Okay. It's cause and effect. So what I like to share is, first off, is people to look at gratitude as a habit. It's in like any good habit, a daily touch point is when if you can just do a daily touch point, that you are above the game, right? Because most people can't with anything, if that's learning a language, and I'm in that seat, practicing every day or whatever, right? Unless you have a deadline or someone's, putting you, you know what I mean? Like doing things daily can be very tricky because our minds can go in a million different directions or whatnot. But where I'm going with all of this is the reason a gratitude practice is so strong. I have a short video about this where basically the idea is that when you practice gratitude, you're resetting the scales. And what I mean by resetting the scales you're reminding yourself that life's good. I've got a lot of good things in my life. I have a lot to be grateful for. You're just reminding yourself, right? Because we forget so quick of whatever happens, right? It could be catastrophic or it could be small, right? It could be somebody flicked you off in traffic, or it could be a friend has cancer, right? All these, the spectrum of emotions. I'm guilty of going overboard or underboard or whatever. But what happens is in any given day, we can be thrown off our game. And what I mean by that is you're going to get stuck in a moment and you're going to forget in that moment because you're going to be so caught up that that's not life, that you have a good life. And there's a lot of good things going on in your life. And we all know that life, we're never guaranteed another day. So the more that we can work on spending less time stuck in those moments. I'm not saying those moments aren't going to occur. What a gratitude practice does, back to the scales, are the more you practice. So if you reset the scale in the morning, right, you could get tipped, but you're not going to fall off because you've reset the scale, right? Like there's this, you're not going to be too far from that memory, those memories, right? But the more you do it, what you do then is you offset the scale. So things that would have really thrown you off your game, you can get in alignment quicker, which allows you to come back to the present moment, realize that whatever this is isn't your life, that you do have things to be grateful for. And what gratitude does, it doesn't take away the problems. It doesn't take away the pains. It sits with you and allows you to move through them faster, or allows you to continue moving, opposed to a metaphor I use is like, okay, well, what if the family decide they're going to go to Disneyland, right? And they get in the car, right? So we all have plans, right? We get in the car, we start driving to Disneyland. The car breaks down on the side of the road. Do we then decide to live in the car? No, what happens is now you have choices to make, but your choice should never be, this is my life. The car on the side of the road is my life. And mentally, it's very easy to get caught up with whatever, like I said, the spectrum of emotions, where we focus on this one thing and think it's our life. And then it becomes a downward spiral where we live a day that we've forgotten, right? Because we were just caught up. And again, it's okay to do that. I'm not preaching saying that's not going to happen. I'm not saying people don't have problems. I'm just saying gratitude is an assistance that walks with you during these hard times and during the light times. And the more we, again, like you said, the more we look for it, the more we see it. So that's a whole other thing too, right? When you start to think in gratitude, you get into situations and you're closer to remembering, okay, well, so for example, here, I'll throw out a simplistic example. A week ago, we had big storms here in Louisville, and electricity went off. And I don't know, last time anyone's had electricity go off, it's an inconvenience. But I honestly, I knew this wasn't the way, isn't like elects aren't going to come back on. But I did reflect to go, okay, well, even if we don't have electricity, there's a lot working here, right? I've got shelter. I've got running water. I have food I can eat, right? On top of that, like my loved ones, my wife and my dad lives next door, my wife here, we're all good, right? Like there's a whole bunch of things going on here. On top of that, like, my phone still works. I can still use my phone. I can get in my car that has gas. I can go charge things, and on top of all that, hey, wasn't it great that it wasn't 100 degrees that day? So what I'm saying is like, the stuff goes down, and that's just to give an example, but at the same time, we can sit with that, or I could just sit here and go, man, we don't have electricity. This stinks, which, if you want to appreciate electricity, go without it for a couple of days. Realize that like your daily thing you take for granted is probably that the coffee maker works, that you got, milk in the fridge, you know what I mean? Like all that, your internet, your TV, these conveniences, lights, air condition or heat, like we get it all day long. Like we live it, right? Like this is your life. But if you want to appreciate that when it's taken away for a couple of days, you could take that as an advantage to your mind, right? It's obviously, it's a problem. You got to take care of food. Like we had to find a place because we didn't want to spoil the food. That's a privileged inconvenience. You know what I mean? Having electricity get off it's an inconvenience, but it's an inconvenience of a very privileged person. And I am speaking as me personally saying I'm very privileged to have electricity. So what's your thoughts on that, Chris? I'll be
No, that was awesome. I mean, the two things that, just the regularity of it and exercising the gratitude, it's a perspective, right? It's seeing things with gratitude is a perspective you can adapt and plan and make a conscious choice to live in. Which also, aligns with the things you were talking about exercising it and looking for the gratitude and things that you might not otherwise be grateful for, right? There's always a positive in things. So thank you for that, expanding on that. There's three people with hands up. I'll go to them in order first. Harvey, you're up.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that. That idea of practice and that, you know, it's a muscle really. But the interesting thing is that if you study evolution, you discover that our brains are hardwired for the opposite. Our brains are hardwired to remember the negative and forget the positive. And the way you can continue to remember the positive is to be grateful for those positive things. And that starts you on the track of recognizing that you know, what's the term that they use? Yeah, good events in our lives are like Teflon, and bad events in our lives are like Velcro. They stick. And being and practicing gratitude turns that around, even though you're hardwired to do the opposite. And that's been one of my experiences in life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. Gabe, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. To comment on what Harvey said, as someone who's a strong spiritual believer in God, we weren't hardwired that way. We were hardwired to be thankful and appreciative. We only became negative form because of the thousands of years of habitual sin. So when we've been in that sinful downfall ever since, you know, man fell in the garden, that's, again, I think you're absolutely right, Chris. If you're habitual in those hardwires of negativity stuff, then of course that's what your habits are going to be. And if human beings have been in that since the fall of man, in my beliefs, that's why we have that negative aspect, because we were obviously doing this since the fall, but we were not hardwired that way. We were created in adoration and thankfulness to the Creator in the garden. So I just want to make sure I express that side of it for those that believe in God and that side of it. But for me, I do devotionals every time I get up in the morning and before I go to bed. And so I started doing starting my prayers as thankfulness and thanking God for things. I used to be able to just start with just like rambling off on things I was dealing with during the day, or something happened in my family, or confessions and things in my life that I was just talking to God, or things I was praying about, like, God, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I would like to be able to have this or have that. And so but then I noticed that for me, too many I believe, in my belief, too many believers do that, and not enough gratitude of just who God is and what He's done for us and how He's been to us. There's not enough gratefulness when it comes to our prayers and devotion. So I started my devotions every time with thank you for whatever it is that that she might have shown me, or He's helping me with, and whatever. It could be just like, just give me a breath to breathe, so that's what I started doing, and it's very helpful to just thank you. I mean, the other thing is, I think it was something came up when I was doing something yesterday. I think I was like becoming impatient or something, or agitated or whatever, and instead of asking God for patience or peace, I said, thank you for your peace, thank you for your patience, instead of asking for it. So that's very helpful. I think absolutely gratitude is a big thing.
Okay, I have thoughts, and I need to go right in after Gabe, because I want to agree. I want to put my 2 cents in with my acknowledgement of what she said. Thank you.
Okay, Chaplain James.
Thank you very much, sir. Gabe, I agree with you 100%. I think it's more to what you're saying than what Harvey is saying about we're just hardwired to do negative. We were hardwired for the positive, but it's just that man is so used to being downtrodden, not having his way and losing his way, which are most of the people that I happen to be around, that they succumb to the negative. It's through years and years of being beat down. It has nothing to do with hardwired. We were hardwired for good and goodness things, but that has been deflected by man and his ways. Oh, and also, I think it's very important that we should find out, even though that's a good explanation you gave, the other Chris, for that. But it's very important to me. I want to find out why does Kira struggle with gratitude? That's important to me. But that's probably only me. With my crazy mind.
Thank you, Chaplain James. And Kira, you have your hand up. That's thanks for your patience.
No, and right, good timing that Chaplain James just said that. Yeah, I mean, I struggle with gratitude. I'm realizing more now that I come from generations and generations of fear, and I know what I grew up in, and I think that this has been going on, with my ancestors. Something about their existence made it very scary to feel grateful, to let down our guard. Chris, I mean, the guest, I appreciated what you said about that it's a practice. I appreciated what you said about it's I think rebalancing the scale. I also like your analogy of a car breaking down. I guess I'm asking, are you saying, like, I mean, I still think that negative or whatever, being ungrateful for things is as natural as being grateful for things. I don't know. I want to know what you think about that. I mean, I do understand that, right? I'm imbalanced in the, ungrateful for things because of my grain, what I grew up with, and I do see how important it is for me to try to balance the scale more. But like I just was thinking of an example of all like animal abuse and suffering in the world. There's nothing that I can see to feel grateful about that for. And if I'm not in it's when I'm in touch with the pain of that I'm more likely to try to take an action. So I guess I'm
Kira, I'm gonna
curious
let
about all
let the
that.
host help you, and then I'm gonna put my contact information in the chat for you, because I have to leave soon. But I want you to use it, Kira.
Thank you,
You're
James.
welcome.
Thank you, James.
Oh, Kara, thanks for sharing all that. I really appreciate it. And there's a couple things I was doing my best to obviously pay attention as you were asking questions, opposed to trying to get to some sort of response. So basically, I guess the way to go with this is like, okay, so for example, you could say the world's on fire, right? We could make a statement because there are places where the world's on fire. And even, say 3 months ago, there was a big space in America that was on fire, But they're also, at the same time, when these things are going on, there are places that aren't on fire. So it's really like when I heard you talk about the animals, and that is something that's awful, obviously. You know, we'll just say, for some example, there's somebody in another country doing something bad right now, right? And you can't do anything about it, Kara. You can't. You could spend the time you have thinking about it, which, in my opinion, isn't the best use of your time, but you could do that, right? Or you could spend time with your animal, or if you feel like, you know what I mean? Like you have no control over, you cannot do anything to stop this person we're talking about in this other country, right? You can't do anything about it. It'd be one thing if it's somebody sitting next to you, right? But spending, instead of, we know that's happening, right? We know it's happening. You're not saying it's not happening, but at the same time, you thinking about it does not help. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't allow you to be present with your dog. I'm just trying to speak, you know what I mean? Like, it's not allowing you to be present and enjoy your life. Now, again, you can think about that all you want, because I'm not judging you. Your mind's going to do what it wants to do. But what gratitude or this thought is, like, you keep in mind that you can't do anything about that. So how about in the moment, you could give yourself, you don't have to spend as much time there, is what I'm saying. You could take a break from spending time there. And like you said, with your dog being funny, that was I think in that moment, I would think, for at least that moment, you weren't thinking about that because you were being present with your dog. When we're present with people, we get to have these memories, these moments, and it gives us a break from these things we can't control that take up so much of our time. I like, I'm a very stoic philosophy type of person, and it's like, what can I do? What can Chris do? So either I know focusing on things, like, I'm not a firefighter, so me focusing on bad things happening in a wilderness fire, me spending my time thinking about it is pointless for me. Like, it doesn't do anything for the fire. It does nothing for the people. All it's doing is taking me. I don't, and that's why I don't watch the news, Kara. I don't even tune in. People can do that. And that's fine. Hey, all day long, I just don't tune in, because I would rather spend my time creating things or talking with people or being present, or, anything. I would choose to do that. And one last little caveat, and then I'll let somebody else go in here, is, we get to label every situation that personally happens in our life. We get to label that. So I would say, you could say, so for example, my mom passing away from cancer, I don't label that as a good thing. I label that as a really messed up thing I label it as one of the most traumatic things in my life. Now, having said all that, has some good stuff in my life come out of that happening? Am I a better person because of it? Do I have relationships? For example, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, these are byproducts. I'm not grateful. I'm not grateful my mom, that happened to my mom. I'm not. I miss her. But I am grateful for the things that came after, for the life I have now. Now, she's not in it, which sucks. I am who I am. I have a compassion for an appreciation for grief. I talk to a lot of people about grief. I even wrote a book about grief, grace, and gratitude. I think about these things. She taught me a lot from that. And that's part of the reason it meant so much to me, is because she loved me so much. The only reason we grieve for people, really have real grief, is because we had it so good. There's a lot of reasons why you miss a person. It's because you had it so good, Okay, I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent there. So did you have any questions? Did that touch a little bit, Kara, did I answer, help at all?
It did. I'm sorry. I don't want to monopolize. Do you think that it makes sense to be in touch with the varying feelings, the painful and the warm?
100%. 100%. Yeah. You can't have the light without the dark. That's why I was saying before, like, gratitude is not a magical pill. So we'll go to the far end of this, right? Because it's good to be in touch, right? But we don't want to live in any of these moments, right? You want a spectrum, because that's what life is. Life is not sunshine. It's not. That's reality, right? and it's also really it's not darkness. You just want to think of the day, the sun coming down, and that. What gratitude does, and a great, and I've written about this, is the idea that when somebody's in a depressive state for whatever reason, or they're caught up thinking about things they can do nothing about, it's not occupying their time in any positive way. It's not creating love or connection, right? These bringing us here so we can experience life, not experience head, whatever you want to call it, right? Gratitude allows us to take a breath. I'm talking about taking a breath. I'm not saying it lifts you out. It doesn't add buoyancy to your body and make you float above water. If you're drowning in some sort of depressive or mind state, what it allows you for a moment is to take a breath and realize that's not your life. You know what I mean? And the more breaths you take, because again, the more you do it, the less time, it's easier for you to not get stuck as long. It doesn't mean you're not going to get stuck. It doesn't mean bad shit's not going to happen, because that's the world we live. It's what it is, right? Because you can only control so much. You can't control these outside environments. But that's so no, you can't shut off. No, you can't shut that stuff off. That's not human. That's not possible. And if we believe that it cannot happen, this spectrum, then I feel like I'm speaking for myself. I feel like we have emotional spectrums. We just need to be more present with them. And again, realize that these moments are not your life. They're a moment in your life. And at the same time, there is, you always have something, you can always redirect. You get to choose your focus. Now, you might forget that 90% of the time, or people, individual, or whatever. Maybe we forget it 50% of the time. But as long as you know that at any given moment you can take a breath, I'm not saying that you're going to shut that out, because you're not going to forget that. But give yourself a little bit of a break for a moment and play with your dog. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? When I want to be present, look at my cat. I got one little thing about I love animals. They're a great gateway to gratitude, right? Like I wrote a quote. I was taking from a Buddhist quote, but it was like, if you can't be happy while feeding your pet, you can't be happy. It's like if you can't take this simple thing. Animals live so much shorter amount of time than we do. When they're giving us focus, like it's 5 minutes, 1 minute of our time is 5 minutes of theirs. You know what I mean? Like it's this. So it's like if you have an animal, you should be grateful you can have an animal, right? Because not only you can take care of yourself, but you've got this being that you're taking care of, right? This love that's there. That's huge. That's privilege. That's freaking beautiful privilege. Hey, I'm talking for myself. I have a cat. But I mean, the fact that I can sit with her and just be with her and pet her, and I'm even taking care of my dad's cat next door so he can go visit his sister. You know what I mean? Like, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to take a moment. Again, it's not life. The animal's not your life, but to take a moment and just soak up that joy. It's sitting right there. You know what I mean? And it's not always going to be there, just like everything else, right? Like these moments, the people we're with, the more we just realize, hey, this is a moment, let's be present, because these moments are not always going to be here. I might not be here. You know what I mean? Like, we know this, right? It's fact. And it's okay. It's completely okay to know that. It's good to know that, because it should be healthy for us. Hopefully it'll assist us in bringing us back to the moment. It's in front of us, right? The only thing that we can actually connect with, these things around us, these people, these animals, and just soak up that joy for a moment, So I really appreciate you talking with me and sharing about your dog. And it's huge. It's freaking huge. You got a joy box running around your space. Like, that's so beautiful. So I'll be quiet if anybody else wants to say anything, or if you got anything else you want to say, Kara. I do really appreciate you opening up to me and allowing me to speak.
Chris, I think you're pretty good. You're very good.
Thank you, Chaplain.
We can consult anytime. Ask Dan for my info if you want.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chaplain. Frank, you had your hand up before.
Yeah. So on the animal issue, I've been thinking about, like, in those industrial farms that raise those chickens, and I'm thinking, like, how inhumane that environment is, where the chickens have in these cages, they have very little space to move around, and they're force fed a lot of food to grow bigger and fatter. And is that a form of animal abuse? And I think it is, and it could be. And but I think it's a complex issue because I'm also grateful that if you go to a supermarket, any time of the year, you can get a rotisserie chicken for like $4.99, $5. And it's a complex issue because that's a benefit of industrialization, I guess. And with things like that, there's benefits and then there are some negative effects of it too, like the chicken being, and I don't know, it's a complex issue, you know? Yeah. Would we rather live in a world where I think it'd be hard if we go to the supermarket and you would and you only get chicken like one time a year during Christmas or New Year's or whatever, and then I don't know, it's complex. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Frank, I appreciate you bringing that up, and you're right. It's very complex, and because I only speak for myself, the only thing I could say about that specific situation is because we can only control our own actions and what we do as individuals, and so if that is something that takes someone out of their joy thinking about that, then the proactive thing for that individual would be what kind of action can you take that allow you not to be caught up in it, right? So in the sense that if an individual is really caught up in that, right? So that's occupying your time, right? So again, we have all different, I don't speak politics at all. So we all have things that we get occupied in our time, things that bother us, right? And there's no need for me to list any of them because they're personal. This is not the space for it. But if someone has an issue with like that industrialization, my advice, if they were to ask me, would be, if this is bothering you so much, maybe you shouldn't eat chicken. And I'm just being very simple, because all I'm doing is like, I'm saying if that's an issue that's taking you out of your joy, right? If it's something that's taking you out of being present and it's bothering you so much that you can't, you know what I mean? Like if it's something that's occupying your space, the way for you to be productive is, I would say, to stop eating chicken. Now we could go further with this example, right? So it's like, but I don't think we need to. That's my opinion about it. But you did bring up a good point. For example, there's we have industrialization, like you said, which is a good thing because it allows people to live places they wouldn't. That's part of the reason that the population could even grow, or people have all this extra life. That's a whole other thing. But I would break down on a level of an individual's joy is whatever that is, right? Whatever that is bothering you, either from a Stoic philosophy, it's either you let it go or be proactive. So that allows you to feel like you're not, so you're being proactive towards whatever that is. So I'm happy to like be quiet and have anybody, I don't know if Chris or somebody else wants to speak up about that.
I don't have anything to add to that other than to concur that it is a complicated world that we live in. And, I think part of that too is that as the world in general rises in consciousness, we are more aware of these things as well. We are more aware of that, and we are able to make choices, conscious choices, for ourselves and, about that, and that those ripples have an effect.
Right.
But Virginia, you've been waiting patiently with your hand up. Oh, you're muted.
Just wanted to get back to Kira's point, and I'll just 60 seconds. She brought up fear and coming from a place of fear. And I think that is an enormous problem in human society now. And I'll just give an example. I have a very close friend who's going through some hard times. I am a gratitude and joyful person. She comes from fear. And I can tell you that my way of living annoys her at times. There's a tension between us because of it. She just comes from a negative place, and she's kind of anxious and angry and protective of that. So I just wanted to affirm what Kira said. I understand where people are coming from like that, and I think that's a complicated problem. if fear kind of is your base, you're going to have trouble getting to gratitude. And I'm not saying that I have any answer for that. I just have compassion. That's all. That's what I wanted to add. That I understood where she's coming from because I see it in people that I really love around me. It's tough. So that's all I want to say.
Virginia, thanks for saying that. I'd never heard it quite put like that. It was very, you saying that, obviously fear would be like shutting the door. It's very hard to get from fear to gratitude. That's a really powerful statement. And it paints a really straightforward picture, I think, that anybody could understand. So thank you for saying that. I've never heard it put like that. So you've kind of plugged that in my mind. So thank you.
Excellent, because I really feel you should be thinking about it too. It's a feature it's a big brick wall. So anyway, I'm glad. Thank you. That's why I waited so long to say it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Virginia. Harvey, you've got your hand up.
Oh boy. Okay. So first of all, Chris, you said the magic word, I think, is ripple. And Virginia just mentioned something that's so important: fear. And I don't know if you're familiar with the acronym of fear being false evidence, absent reality. FEAR, false evidence, absent reality. But a friend of mine came up with even a better one for fear: face everything and rise. And I love that. I've been playing with that quite a bit. And when you were talking to Chris earlier, you mentioned that it doesn't help you to focus on things that are out of your realm of control. And I agree with that, but I would add another thing and asking yourself, is it hurting me? And is it hurting the very world that we're living in? I believe that our thoughts and our feelings actually ripple out into the universe, and they come back mirrored. And therefore, we keep things the way that we think about them. And so if we start to think in more positive and more grateful ways, we are sending out ripples into the universe that are positive and nurturing of ourselves and everyone else on this planet, because there is no everyone else. We're all one in reality.
So true. Thank you, Harvey.
Thank you, Harvey.
And even the smallest things, can have an effect that you don't recognize right away. Somebody can do something really, really small, and it touches someone in a profound way that you may not, realize. It's and it goes back to what Chris was saying too about making it a habit that gets reinforced, and practiced. Dan, you've got your hand up. You don't really have to put your hand up, Dan.
I know.
You run this, so you can just jump in.
All right. Well, where did everybody go? Oh, I see you now. Yes. Okay. All right. Chris Palmore, there is an expression, there is a theory that the more we are grateful for, the universe begins to give us even more to be grateful for. It provides us with gifts, and then we're even more grateful, and it's compounded. We're grateful for the new gifts, and the new gifts compounded with newer gifts and newer gifts, because we're in this cycle of gratitude. Is this true, Chris Palmore? Do you find this true for yourself?
I don't know if it's as clear cut as what you said. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be in spaces that make you unhappy or sad. If that's so, I could say, psychologically speaking, what you look for, you will find more of. But at the same time, does not mean that the sun's going to shine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know. Is that a pretty good answer?
Yes, that brings it down to earth for sure. So,
but it could help you if it's going to be raining tonight. It may allow you to remember to bring a umbrella.
Yes. So if I'm grateful for just one thing today, well, the universe, it's not formulaic, then you're saying. I'm grateful for one or two things. The universe won't say, oh, look at this. It's a human that's grateful for two things. Well, that's wonderful. I really like that. Let me give you three more things to be grateful for. Doesn't work like that, huh?
I don't live my life like that. I feel like at any given moment, people have an ungodly, and I'm going to use that term for the fun of it, things to be grateful for that they don't think about. So maybe what the universe is doing is allowing you to realize things in your life that you have been not thinking that you're grateful for, however you want to say that. We wake up every day with things that are so convenient to us, that it's easy to take for granted. And it isn't like I get up every day and say, thank you, electricity, but I should, because my goodness, do a lot of things I enjoy. Everything that's happening right now with us without electricity, obviously there's other things, right, Dan? But without that, none of this is happening. It's not even like an idea. Without electricity, it's not even, it's, you know what I mean? Like it's nothing. It's literally, no one's building computers. No one's making keyboards. We're not putting satellites in the air, these cameras, you know what I mean? Like without juice, whatever you want to call it, battery, you know what I mean? Like none of it's happening. But I get up every day and I do not think about that. I just enjoy, I just sit down and enjoy these things. And sometimes I think about it and sometimes I don't. Part of my practice, and maybe if people that really dig creativity and they're using technology or whatever, I have a practice recently where I go, I write down, I get to be a kid. I'm a kid and I get to play. And I go, wow, these toys I get to play with. My goodness, these toys. My God, these toys I get to play with, right? I remember editing in high school with VHS tapes. Do you realize what an iPhone does? Can you even, because we were like the reverse of the frog in the pan, right? Like things got better. We didn't fry, but we sat in the pan and like, there you go, your iPhone. Kids that are like 6 years old can edit videos they make in the palm of their hand. Anyways, and that's just something that comes with the phone. That's not even an upsell. Anyways, let me finish my thought here. Not only do these amazing toys, right? Amazing toys, but I also have people to play with. And I'll tell you what, I think the people to play with are even more magical than the toys. And because what happens when people get together and they create, what happens, right? I call it magic. Things that could never happen by myself happen if I'm co-creative with other people, if I'm having conversations. You end up in rooms, you meet people, things come up, ideas are shared, and your world becomes bigger and brighter. And that's part of my practice. So you said something that allowed me to go there, but I wanted to share that because you can get into kid state easy. I do it easily with creativity. It's amazing. We live in amazing times. We live in absolutely amazing times. Again, the world's on fire some places and it's sunny other places. I'm going to sit here and decide to focus on, we live in an amazing times and I live in an amazing place and I'm very grateful for it. Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
That was great, and I agree. There is an abundance of things that I have to be grateful for that I don't even recognize. You know, like if I put my mind to it, I can make a massive list, and most of it I take for granted. It's very true.
Me too, man. It's human nature. But I'm just saying we do, man. Any given moment. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been with somebody you love that's had trouble breathing, or say that was part of the end of their life was not having to be on oxygen. But the moments you're with them remind you of like how huge of a blessing it is to have lungs that work and air to breathe, which is something all of us have every day. I'm 46 years old. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not coming from a pious place. I'm just making a statement. Like, it's something that can be touched on, and it should be touched on because it's so great. It allows it all to happen.
Yeah.
It's allowing it all to happen. Whatever it's allowing you to enjoy the good and the bad and the ugly, right? And there it is. We don't, and if we had to think about it, it wouldn't, we'd fall. If it wasn't automatic, we wouldn't exist. Like you would, you know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiffany.
It's so funny because I put in the chat there, we had about some months back during the rainy season, we lost power. And the kids in the complex losing it because they've had iPads. They're like trying to like, you know, bum a charge here and there and all this kind of stuff, right? And this was the longest. We had never lost power for 24 hours before, right? So here we are, 24 hours. It was wild, right? And the next morning, I have not been able to generate this feeling since, was the gratitude for seeing the sun finally, you know? And I think maybe it's something where you have to just not have lights to understand the gratitude of seeing the sun every day. And I know the sun was probably looking at us like, yeah, you notice me now, right? I've been here this whole time, and now you want to say hi, right?
Yeah. Now you notice.
So it's really, really wild to live through that, and to also, you know, be a kid from the 80s where it's like I got to watch TV on Saturday, you know?
Mm-hmm. You had to go to the movies to see anything that was like worth seeing, right?
Yeah. And my daughter, I think I have things downloaded that I can watch. And it's like, dude, like chill out. Like you just don't get that right now. And to see that difference in how the brains are changing, and even my brain is changing with the technology and being able to be like, oh yeah, I can watch Flight of the Navigator 85 times now. All of the different things from then. So, but remembering that gratitude for the sun is something that I want to work on a bit more. But I want to touch on the part where, you know, when you get into these, with all honor and respect, but this escapist spiritual thinking where you want to avoid the stuff, it's really weird how it gets twisted where there's almost this thought of like having to be grateful for the painful situations. And what I found is like being able to diverge, like it's such a shift of, and it's almost, I can't even explain it, and it'll take too long to get down. But no, like it's like that was one of my hardest things in gratitude practice. Like, no, I'm not grateful for that, you know, and having to. I think that when we go into this, is we look at the echoing. It's like we want to be in an echo chamber. And I think that part of gratitude takes you out of the echo chamber where you have to really sit with yourself and decide how you feel about a situation, you know, and put together your own puzzle. And, you know, and that's what I could say about that. And I hope that's clear. And I understand you guys with the animal thing. That's a hard one when we look at the chickens and stuff, Frank, and the $4.99 at Costco and the industrialization. And I remember when I used to be a really, really hardcore vegan, one lady was like, but let's talk about all the animals that get hurt in harvesting vegetables, you know? So looking at like animals on the field mice, those kinds of things, all of this stuff is happening when you have all of these things. So it's like, it's this point of like, I would say that as we're practicing gratitude, there could be like this space of penance that we're constantly in, and this understanding of what it is on the other side, and everything that happens behind it. Like with our electricity, there's a whole lot behind that electricity, you know? But realizing like I don't think the force of life is against our computers, you know? I don't think that. I mean, maybe the force of life is against the fact that, you know, there are people in other places that need fiber optic cables, and the US uses a lot more fiber optic cables. So I think just knowing that there's a better way of doing things, and even having that thought in our mind of there's a better way of doing things, I think really helps with that space of penance for stuff, and and accepting the complete lack of control, and being glad that I'm not in control of all of this, and being glad that I'm not the boss of the entire planet is something that helps me. So yeah, but thanks to the sun, thank you all.
Thank you, Tiffany. You mentioning the sun and saying you're paying attention to me. I'm not going to forget that. And then I really like the idea of going, I'm grateful I'm not the boss of the planet. Yes, me too. Second that. Things that yeah. Yes, 100%.
Oh, totally. Gabe, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. Trying to remember what it was because I lost connection there for a minute. I couldn't get back in. So I'm trying to remember what it was I was freaking gonna mention. Oh yeah, so the things we go around not being thankful for. Yeah, I totally agree. I absolutely totally agree. I just gotta mention because my recovery center that I go to, we do every Friday. We do a gratitude. We have a journal. They got us journals, so every Friday we write down things we're grateful for. And I notice how some of the people there have a hard time even writing down 5 things that they're grateful for. Just 5 things. And the staff people are like, well, what about breathing? What about being able to see? What about being able to walk? There's like a ton of things. Waking up this morning, there's like a whole ton of things to be grateful for. But it's really interesting just to see how people just, and I do it myself. There's so many different things, and I definitely agree with the whole technology thing. I might not like technology, like my Zoom cut me out from you guys, and I'm just like, you know, but I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to be able to talk to, you guys in these groups, and you guys are all in different locations, all over the place, so I am grateful for that. Oh yes, that was now I remember what it was now. It's interesting that we're talking about gratitude, considering that it's Memorial Day weekend. So one of the things that really baffles me when it comes to the United States of America is the freedoms that we have in this country, based on the freedoms that are limited in other countries.
I think Gabe, are you still there? You cut out.
She froze. Yeah, she froze out for me too.
Well, it is.
Okay, did you guys hear me?
Oh,
yeah. Sorry,
you cut out. You cut out, but you're back now.
Okay, yeah. So running water, toilet flushing. Thankful that I can flush a toilet and I actually have a toilet to sit on. Hot water, air conditioning, heat, soap. Wash yourself. Right. I mean, things like that. These countries don't have some of these things, we take those things for granted. We really do in this country, and it just baffles me. It really does. But there's another acronym that I like, that I think really will help with getting that habit of being grateful, because it's really up here, like you said, Chris. It's really up here in our mind.
It's a mind game.
Have your minds about it. So there's an acronym called THINK. Hold on, let me turn my video off. There's an acronym called THINK. So THINK. Now the T stands for thoughtful, but I actually changed it from think to thankful. So if it's not thankful, if it's not helpful, if it's not inspiring, if it's not nice, if it's not kind, then don't think about it. Period.
Like that.
Ask yourself those questions.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. Thank you for sharing that, Gabe.
Yeah, thank you. The
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that another thing about about gratitude and having trouble with it sometimes is that there are some things where you only become, you talked about this earlier, Chris, some things that you only become grateful about in hindsight, right? Where in the moment it happens, there's no way, and years late, it could be months, weeks, years later, you go, oh, wow, that thing, was able to help me in such a way and I didn't see it. And it's one of those things, I mean, you don't start even recognizing that until you get older and, as you age more and more, and you can recognize that it's happened to you. But once I also saw that, even when I'm in the midst of something that I go, I don't know what to be grateful about with this, I can also tell myself, but I know that there will be some benefit that comes out of this in some way, even if it's not now, and I can kind of put that to the side and think, that future state is coming. And I can, open myself up to finding something within it that I can be grateful for.
That's a really great that's a great point, Chris, and it kind of leads me. I know we only have a little bit of time left, but I was gonna and this speaks almost going kind of when Tiffany was talking too, I was thinking about this, but a little over 3 years ago, my sister contacted me and told me that she'd been going through cancer treatments for a year and a half, and that she was basically telling me, because they were at the end of the line, end of the ropes there, like there was nothing else to do, and she was like, and she hadn't basically told almost anybody, and my father didn't know either, and I told her, it's like, well, you need to tell him soon because I can't really keep this from him. And about 11 days later, my father and I find ourselves back in the same hospice hospital that we lost my mother in. And we're sitting at this, the hospice wing at our places. There's the rooms and they have their own thing going on. But at the end of the hallway, there's like an open space with couches and windows and lights. And my dad and I are sitting in this, in this in space, this open space. And, it was very messed up and surreal to be back in that hospital and this happening to my sister, and it being very different because my mom's treatments and everything was something that we led up to, where this was like a car crash because she'd kept it from us. But I was sitting there with my father and I started to think about the things I'm grateful for happening at the moment. And I go, well, it sucks that she has to be here. It sucks. But I'm so grateful that these places exist. I'm so grateful that there are people that their jobs are to take care of my sister. I'm so grateful there is medicine to alleviate pain, especially at this moment. I'm grateful there's oxygen, the tanks that are, there's a lot. I'm grateful we're not taking care of her. And I know what that's like, and I don't wish it on anybody. As soon as you step out, you realize you're not a nurse. You're not a doctor. All these things are happening, right? And I was just pointing it out, and it didn't take away from how shitty the situation was. But in that moment, I got to focus on what's good that's happening right now in this situation. I don't want to be here, but I have no control over that. We are here. What's working? What can I think about for a moment that'll just give me a little alleviation from the thoughts of what's happening in that room, right? How can I do that for me and my father? Okay, so I'm telling you that because we're sitting in this room, and I look over at the inside table, the table there on the end, and there's a Gideon Bible and a People magazine. And I thought to myself, I kind of smirked. I was like, what if there was a third option? What if there was an option, something between devout religion and devout fluff? What if there was something about gratitude on that table? And my sister passed away the next morning, and I got to work on what is the little book of Grief, Grace, and Gratitude. Because this is the book I wish was sitting on that table. So I was wanting to share that because of what Tiffany was saying about, obviously we're not grateful. Had no gratitude for cancer. I have no gratitude for my sister's pain. I have no I don't, but there are things around these situations. And I loved you, Chris, pointing out, even if you can't realize it at the moment, you do know, because your life's going to go on, that you're going to find something of value that has come from this car crash. Something you had no control over. And I know we're going out of time here. I just wanted to share that I dropped the ebook down to $2.99. I'm sending a copy to Dan. So if anybody physically wants to borrow it from it, it'll be a community copy. I didn't mention to Dan, I did have my wife, I had it professionally done in Spanish. If there's somebody that wants the ebook in Spanish at $2.99, all you have to do is email me and I will lower the price for you, but I'm not going to do that unless somebody lets me know they want it. It's also in Hindi. I had a person in India, a professional person, actually translate the book into Hindi. So it's in 3 different languages because it was that important to me that I could create this and have it available to people. So the Hindi version and the Spanish version, I'm happy to lower the price, but someone's going to have to tell me they want that language edition, and I'm happy to lower it. That's the lower tier point there. So having said all that, I know we only got 5 minutes left, so I'll be quiet if you guys have questions, or Dan or Chris, anybody wants to, I'll go ahead and button it up. I'm at gratitudespace.com. And also if you want to contact me, it's hello@gratitudespace.com. Or if you just remember gratitudespace.com, the email's there also. So I'll go ahead and be quiet and let you guys do whatever you do in the last 5 minutes.
What is the easiest way to get this book? In other words, can I send a check to Dan and then he can send me the book? Like the easiest. I don't deal with Amazon's nothing, For me, it's like, or I can even call and give my debit card, Well, what's the easiest way to get this little book?
Well, do you use?
I love this program, by the way. I love it. I never thought that a situation what you described at the end like this, can be like still uplifting, and I'm just